smart.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Today is a Monday for a member of parliament. So I understand on Mondays you are not free, but you don't have to attend to the business of the house. But do you do committee meetings on Monday?
Yes, committee meetings. We also sometimes do our field trips. Remember that the tradition has been that when we rise on Friday, the weekend is used for our constituency surgeries or constituency engagements. And some of our colleagues are representing constituencies that sometimes you need a whole day to get to that place. Not everybody is as fortunate as some of us who can get to a constituency in 2 hours. So the tradition has been that you use the weekend for travel. So Saturday to get to your constituency and have your constituency engagements, and then you can use Monday to find your way back to Accra, and then sit-ins resume on Tuesdays to Fridays. But I must indicate that there are a number of Mondays that we do sit. There are weeks that we have what is called extended sitting.
Okay.
And so
you start from Monday?
Yeah, so we do start from Monday sometimes. There are times even we have been called upon to sit on Saturdays.
Okay.
Sometimes Sundays. I mean, depending on the exigencies of the time. If there's a lot of business and it cannot be concluded at a time that we have set for ourselves to rise, then we would have to do our best to finish the work. But I must say though that there is a lot of room for those who manage government business to be better organized. If you talk to a lot of MPs, they will tell you that in the initial sittings, if you like, the first half of every meeting of Parliament, the business is very, very light. There's a lot of if you like, lackadaisical attitude from the part of government, because most of what we do is government business. Because of our constitution, matters that will impose financial burden on the state, MPs are quite restricted. So private members' bills are very few and far in between. So more than 95% of the work we do are really public business or government business. And when you have a government that is, really, really slow, really lackadaisical, and then they keep things to the last hour, that's when you do see a lot of pressure being brought to bear. If you look at even the recent Supreme Court decision in this narcotic amendment bill, the Supreme Court held the view that things were rushed, and that is why that particular section 43, was struck out for further debate, a more detailed debate, which we have now done, and it's been reinserted, if you like. So there are lessons that ought to be learned in terms of scheduling government business and making good use of the house right from the get-go, so that we hit the ground running.
I've also wanted to ask you this question, because there are those who say you make an MP's work look like light work. That this is a very difficult work to do. For most MPs, they struggle to even meet the basic demand. But people see you a lot of the time. It looks like you're able to cater to a lot. You are trying to do some level of development, whilst catering to other welfare needs like fees, among others. How do you do all this?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for the compliments. And I must say that there are a great number of MPs out there who are also doing their best. It's not as easy as it may look on the surface. It involves a lot of planning, a lot of lobbying, a lot of strategy and vision. So yes, you have very limited resources, the MP's Common Fund, but how can you put it to maximum use? How can you carry out research and identify the matters that really are of utmost importance to your constituents, so that you target those issues directly and make the most impact? So it's really about a certain dexterity, a certain versatility. Like the recent project that I commissioned, the potable water system for Avilojogbe in the Bato traditional area. And there are quite a number of others also taking place in the Dofo area, and then also the Mapotogodo, and then the Fujoku enclave. These will naturally require reaching out to a number of charities, a number of NGOs, a number of foundations, which we do. So we do sometimes send in our proposals very, very early. And then we also assure them that land is ready. We show them the land title. We show them the preparations that we have made, the community readiness, and the community's intention to support them. And sometimes we also let them know that there's a little counterpart funding available on our part to facilitate, the work. So it's about setting out. So ahead of every year, we have a target, what we want to do in January, in February, in March, April, all the way to December, and then we work to secure funds where the MP's Common Fund can support. Good news, but where it cannot suffice, then we reach out to a number of.
My colleagues have been crying that
and then
Common Fund is not coming.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's been very, very erratic, very, very erratic. When they do come, you make sure that you put it to good use, where you can have maximum impact. I must also indicate that in every constituency, you will have those who are also passionate about development, who you reach out to. So we have quite a good pool of some of these, successful people, accomplished businessmen, philanthropists, and all of that. And once you show them, yes, and beyond as well, because there are also some people who generally want to assist. Like you take this facility in my constituent, the Bato Catholic Hospital. Many people know about it. They have saved lives of many people who are even outside the constituency. So when you show a clear plan, like when we were expanding the children's hospital, when we were, investing in the cervical cancer center, which is now one of the foremost cervical cancer centers in the country, when we were also re-equipping the hospital. Once the hospital has that, national presence, that credibility, and the people also know that, their donations will be sent directly to the people. It would, be used for what it is intended for. People do come on board. So I would say that it is quite a dynamic mix of, of various, supports, various collaborators, and donors. That's really what you need to do make an impact. And there are also, don't forget, some of the issues that you just have to rely on sheer advocacy and be persistent at it. So it's not every problem that is a money problem. There are some of the challenges that you just need to pursue them with strong advocacy, with a certain community organization, and getting the people mobilized, to find solutions, and the solutions do come once you are persistent. So you just have to do your best to be very versatile, and to and do well not to be daunted by the task. Yes, it's not easy, but in every hurdle, in every challenge, in every problem, is also an opportunity, to make a difference, to solve it, and make people happy. Because we are really in this job just, to make the people happy. And in our party, we have tremendous role models to learn from. I mean, look at the story of President Rawlings, the founder of our party, selfless, was always out there in the field himself, in the gutters, with the people, so that is, an example to look up to. You'll take Professor Mills, very humble, very modest. So if you are, a member of our party, an MP, or any leader in our party, and you have that example, how to be compassionate, how to be modest, how to, not to carry airs. I mean, this was a whole professor who had achieved so much, and yet, we relate with everybody, believed in young people. So when you have that example, you need to be guided, and I'm glad I'm talking about him a few days to his commemoration. Then you also have, the indefatigable President Mahama, another sterling example, very modest, as a nation builder. I mean, look at what he did with very little resources. So we cannot have an excuse. I mean, I was doing a comparative analysis recently of even oil proceeds. If you read the latest PIAC report, PIAC is reporting that what President Akufo-Addo got from our oil receipts in 2022, just last year, is the highest ever, $1.4 billion. That's about half of what he is begging the World Bank for in 1 year. Even under the current IMF program, President Akufo-Addo would not get 1.4 billion in 1 year. At best, 1.2. The first tranche of 600 has arrived. Then the next one will be 600. So last year, and this hasn't dawned on a lot of people, President Akufo-Addo got $1.4 billion. Compare that to President Mahama in 2016. PIAC is, if you read, and these reports are online, I urge listeners to go online, download the PIAC reports, or just click on them. You see that President Mahama received less than $250 million in 2016. And yet, see the things that President Mahama did. I mean, if you look at President Mahama's project, up to now, I mean, when COVID came, imagine we didn't have a President Mahama before Akufo-Addo and COVID struck. Just imagine. UGMC, that some of them said they went there to rest. They were not even honest enough to admit that they had gone there to be cured. Take the regional hospital, Rich. Look at the Tamale Teaching Hospital renovations. Look at the Shai Osudoku Hospital. I mean, look at what was done with polytechnics across the regions, re-equipping the hospitals, the national re-equipping program. As we speak now, I mean, the last time the Minister of Health was in Parliament, he told us that there was just about 3 MRIs working in the whole country. That would not have happened under President Mahama. So when you see somebody who, with very little, I mean, look at the interchanges, from Circle to Kaswa, look at the roads that he did. Look at the e-blocks that I was privileged, to serve under him to execute that vision. And yet he was getting, less than 30% of the resources that President Akufo-Addo has received. And yet, President Mahama did not make excuses. He solved Dumso. He was able to, address the challenge with secondary school shortage, access to secondary school education. See what he did in continuing the vision of Professor Mills to have a university, a public university in every region. So he completed the University of Health and Allied Sciences in the Volta region. He completed the University of Environment and Natural Resources in the then Brong-Ahafo region. And then he secured full funding for the University of Environment and Sustainable Development in the Eastern region in Somanya. He cut the sword, before he left office, full funding. And the funding he secured, the Donkokrom campus should have been finished by now in the Afram Plains area. But these people came and diverted the project, denied the people of Donkokrom. And this is the second time. Twice, President Akufo-Addo has denied the people of Afram Plains a project. Recently, there was a road loan we approved in Parliament. The president changed his mind, decided to reallocate the funds to the Swami interchange. So if you don't vote for them, it's not their stronghold, forget it. I mean, you come to even my enclave, and I know that you are from South Town, so you are passionate about this project. President Mahama has secured funding for the Volleyball Bridge.
Yeah.
See how many years we've been waiting, just because when they look at the numbers, we got the widest margin of victory for President Mahama in the last election. They don't see what electoral benefit they can get. And I have been following up. I've asked many questions, assurance upon assurance. Oh, we'll come and start. Oh, we're trying to raise counterpart funding. Oh, we want to get some funding for the main road. Oh, don't worry.
Going on to 7
don't worry.
years.
Can you imagine? And I can tell you that the Japanese are even getting frustrated. So you look at President Mahama, little resources, and yet did so much. So those of us who have come after these, icons telling examples, we don't have any excuse in various roles as members of parliament or in the capacity that we find ourselves. We have very good role models to look up to and to follow that spirit. So you have President Rawlings, who is a people's man, courageous. You need to learn from that. You have Professor Mills, compassionate, very modest, down to earth, a deep thinker. You learn from that. You have President Mahama, who is a nation builder, very astute. He does so much with very little resources that he finds. He doesn't make excuses. He just solves the problems. So you learn from that. And then we have probably Africa's greatest, Kwame Nkrumah. You know that I always pride myself of being an Nkrumahist. I have been influenced greatly by his thoughts, his books, his philosophy, and so when you combine all of these, greats, you really must live up to expectation and serve your people to the best of your ability with distinction, and make sure that you leave the place better than you met it.
Well, if you just join us, Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa is in studio with me. He's Member of Parliament for the people of North Tongu. The last time I was in North Tongu, they in fact, when you go to North Tongu, they don't joke with their MP. They are very proud of the MP. Wherever he says they should come to, they will gladly come because they know you deliver the goods for them. Well, Honorable has joined us in studio this morning. And first, I don't know whether congratulations or how to say it, because you have been, in fact, what you have essentially done, you have withheld yourself from sharing any further information you had on him because the matter was in court. Yeah. And I'm talking about Rev Victor Kusi Boateng. When you were sued, we were looking at the written, it was Kobna Edu Jemfida was suing you.
Yes.
When you saw the suit initially, were you surprised at the name that was being used to sue you?
Well, I wasn't surprised, but I was very happy that would be a confirmation, because all along people really had doubts.
Okay.
I had even a lot of close friends, party members, colleagues in the house say, "Are you really sure? I mean, this is a man of God. Are you sure? We can't believe this. I mean, why will a man of God have 2 names, 2 dates of birth, 2 mothers, 2 things? This is looking like a Hollywood movie, or if you like, a low production, Kumawood movie. They thought that the script was just, too mind-boggling to be believed. So when he sued, and people saw Kwabena Edu Jemfi, alias Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, then the cat was out of the bag. So by even going to court, though he thought that it will put fear and probably douse the flames, it rather brought more credibility to what the exposés that we had put out.
So it was helpful to you?
It was very helpful, very, very helpful. I mean, I think from that time onwards, people saw that, look, this guy should not even have gone to court. He should just, the sheer audacity that you have engaged in all of this, And now you are the one rather going to court seeking to gag the member of parliament who is carrying out his mandate. I mean, there was nothing I was doing that was unconstitutional. Look, the whole principle of having a legislature, a parliament, an executive, a judiciary, 3 arms of government, as Montesquieu propounded, and the likes of John Locke, Jacques Rousseau, and others further developed. That whole concept is that you want to keep checks on the other, keep the tab, make sure that no one arm goes rogue, no one arm takes the people for granted, because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, and that's Lord Acton. So you must always make sure that these 3 arms are quite strong enough to hold each other in check for democracy to thrive. And our work as members of parliament really is to make sure that we are protecting the public purse. That is why you can't spend without our approval. Of course, under Akufo-Addo, history has been made. They did a lot of expenditure for the National Cathedral without parliamentary approval, but eventually we cut them out. And I have no doubt that people are going to go to jail. One day, a diligent Attorney General who has the country at heart, who is a patriot, will look into these matters and make sure that people do go to jail for all of these constitutional breaches, financial loss to the state, and all of that. So when you go to court, like Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi, Victor Kusi Boateng did, seeking to gag an MP, it's such an affront. It is an offense against our constitution and against everything that democracy is about. I'm still reading, I'm still researching. I haven't seen this anywhere where somebody has gone to court seeking to gag an MP, stop an MP from carrying out his constitutional oversight mandate. It's incredible, but he had the sheer audacity, the effrontery to do that. And remember also that the name calling that took place, a lot of name calling. This chap had the nerve. I find it difficult seeing the evidence now, which has been proven and confirmed by the Human Rights Court. If you read the judgment of the Human Rights Court, very, very damning. I am surprised that this man had the effrontery to call me a demon. He told his congregation when these matters began that they should treat me with contempt, and that you cannot go up without fighting demons. You remember that infamous sermon he delivered. And then you had the National Cathedral Secretariat also putting out a statement that they don't respond to my lies and all of that, and the listeners can see all of these statements online. Now here we have it. They all have X on their faces. If I can read from the summary of the judgment, the respected Human Rights Court judge said, and I quote, "It has been proven that Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi and Victor Kusi Boateng are 2 separate identities concurrently used by the applicant, and first respondent is justified in his claims that Victor Kusi Boateng is not an alias, but another separate identity altogether. The way the 2 identities were used does not suggest a simple case of 2 different names, but rather 2 independent and totally separate identities to conceal applicants' dealings in a manner that was not obvious until the investigations and publications of first respondent. Applicant's assertion that the use of 2 names in the manner he has done is not a crime under our laws is misconceived, as the 2 identities were used in a pattern of duplicity, depicting a lack of transparency, and his conduct borders on criminality."
That was the conclusion of the court.
Yeah. The application was sought to be enforced under Article 33(1) of the 1992 Constitution, which requires an applicant's personal interest in the matter to confer locus standi. From the record, it is not clear which of the 2 separate identities seeks to enforce its fundamental human rights by the suit. And once there is a clear case of double identity presented and proven before this court, this application is dismissed for lack of capacity and local standard. Cost of 10,000 Ghana cedis is awarded against the applicant in favor of the first respondent. Very damning. Very, very damning. So, to think that this gentleman had the temerity, really, to be the one going to court. I remember that he filed 3 cases. The first one was contempt, that I should be committed to jail. I had finished the program at Metro TV and I was set up. That morning, some hoodlums approached me and said, "We have a document for you, we have to take it." I said, "What is that? Who are you? Introduce yourself." They wouldn't speak and just threw it at me. I lost my cool and kicked it out of my way because I was driving myself. I didn't want any foreign material I couldn't trust in my car, particularly as they had not introduced themselves. So it turned out that the whole thing was a setup. They were recording me and all of that. And after that whole setup, he then went to court that I should be committed
For contempt,
to prison, for contempt. It emerged also in that matter that apparently they were not bailiffs. The people who had come to Metro TV were not bailiffs.
Persons who were sent to serve you.
And you see, that's his modus operandi. A so-called man of God doesn't do anything upright. Because if they were bailiffs, they will have known that you can't, that's not how you serve members of parliament. The constitution is very clear. You go through the speaker. You do things decently. He went to hide his tags from wherever. He's the only one who knows. So the judge had some very critical words for him in that matter as well. And remember, the cost of 10,000 Ghana cedis was awarded. And he was told to go and do the right thing. If you want to serve the MP, serve him properly. So you see his modus operandi. So that was the first defeat. Then this is the second one. Going into the substantive matter, he had come under Article 33, a human rights action, saying that I am violating his right to privacy and that he must be protected. He shouldn't have his IDs and all of those documents I was putting out there. It should not be put out. And I was really wondering if this guy knows what public service is about. Once you accept to be an appointee of the president and you come into public office and you are managing public resources, you open yourself up for scrutiny. You will be scrutinized. We need to know what you are doing with our money. And don't forget, you see, the background to this whole story is important. Sometimes people forget the background. Some people think that probably this is personal. It's never been personal. I have here the volume of documents that was presented to Parliament by the National Cathedral Secretariat. And remember, this was when we caught them using over 339 million Ghana cedis without parliamentary approval in violation of Article 178 and insisted that the right thing should be done. They eventually succumbed, decided to now come on the path of righteousness. So in the 2023 budget, they put an allocation for the first time, a line allocation for the National Cathedral, 80 million. But as the tradition is, when you come to Parliament for approval, you must first justify what you have used the earlier approvals for, or the earlier public funds for. I can't call this approval because there was never an approval. So the 339 million or $58.1 million, which thanks to the votes of Central Committee, we got to know that that's how much Ken Oforiatta had unconstitutionally withdrawn. We demanded to know the breakdown. How have they used that 339 million? So in responding to us, they went back to their office and returned later with this volume of document, quite voluminous, over 300 pages of accounting. And when I perused the document they brought, it's their own document, their own document. I discovered here, contractors mobilization, JNS Talent Center Limited, paid 2.6 million Ghana cedis. It's here, you can see for yourself. JNS Talent Center Limited paid 2.6 million. Contractors mobilization. So I got curious. What business does this entity, JNS Talent Center Limited, have receiving 2.6 million under contractors mobilization? When, first of all, they cannot be contractors, because I know the contractors. The contractors are Rebade, which is a joint venture of Rizani Di Eka, Babisoti, and Disimoni.
Okay.
Then the architects, David Ajay and Associates. So where from this JNS to receive 2.6 million? Who are they? Talent Center. And we are constructing, a National Cathedral. What has a talent center got to do with it? So I got very curious and I said, look, let me look into this company. Who are they? What do they do? I found out that registered a few years ago, they say that they do talent developing. They open a crèche somewhere in Dowenya. So I even got more curious. Crèche? Dowenya? And we are building a national cathedral. What's happening here? Then I look at the directors, 3 directors, Johannes Eshen, Sheila Eshen, a couple, who are pastors in Rev Kusi Boateng's church. And I said, this is getting interesting. So Kusi Boateng must know these guys. Sheila Eshen, Johannes Eshen. But then I see a 3rd director who had no digital footprints anywhere. I tried Googling, I did all kinds of tabletop research and couldn't find Kwabena Edujemfi, that 3rd director, anywhere else. I said, this is getting really suspicious. Already I'm seeing potential conflict of interest. These pastors in Reverend Kusi Boateng's church. But then this 3rd guy, who is he? I mean, we have to crack this code. So I said, okay, you know what? Before you register a company, you must show an ID. You must let the registrar of companies know who you are. Then GRA must also know who you are as a director. So let me get into those systems and see what this guy submitted, to be accepted as a director and to be registered as such. And lo and behold, I couldn't believe my eyes. The passport that had been submitted, the picture, same. I said, this is getting interesting. Let me dig deeper. So I then get more IDs. I was able to get into NIA database, the EC database, DVLA, and other entities. And then also secured the forms he filled, claims he made, statutory declarations he made, and all of that. And it was confirmed. Then I decided to also do some tracking, that we have the capacity to track travels and all of that. And I noticed that, this is the same guy traveling to Dubai and then later to Liberia as Kwabena Edujemfi. And we had all the video footage and all of that. So confirmed beyond doubt that is the same person we are talking about. So I decided to blow the alarm. And I decided to then petition Shraj that this is a clear conflict of interest matter. Because remember that the Supreme Court ruled in Okudzeto Ablakwa Manebuama versus Jake Obechebilamte when we were fighting Jake when he decided to buy his bungalow, a bungalow that was given to him as chief of staff, which had been renovated at great cost to the Ghanaian taxpayer, only for him to turn around and buy it for cheap. We said that there was a clear conflict of interest. It's not allowed. I mean, if ministers of state since the Nkrumah era were engaged in that kind of conduct, there will be none left for him to come and meet and occupy. even though the Supreme Court commended us, but they didn't really. I think it was a 5-3 decision. We lost rather strangely. I think it was quite a travesty. But they did indicate that for conflict of interest, they want to establish beyond doubt that the forum is Shraj. So that's where you go. So that Shraj petition is alive and active. I must inform you, Senna, that Shraj has had quite a number of engagements with us, written to us. Our lawyers have been responding. No, on this Kusi Boateng matter. So I know that Shraj is actively investigating. That is the conflict of interest aspect. So after that Shraj petition, he then issues a statement on the Victor Kusi Boateng letterhead, saying that he will take action, he's going to have me sued and all of that. And then eventually he sued. That was his opportunity, Senna, I will argue, to just be contrite, come clean, apologize to the Ghanaian people, to his congregants, and say that, look, we are all fallible, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And being a pastor, I'm sure that many of us Christians will have, forgiven him. But he rather decided to present a posture of, he is the victim, he is clean, I'm the one seeking to soil his hard-earned reputation, and he went to court. Now, here we have it. It's now been proven. And, interestingly, during this court case, he tried to create the impression that he was born Kwabena Edujemfi, but in later years, when he became a pastor, then he adopted Victor Kusi Boateng. Remember also that Paula Domochri had gone on air to do some mercenary PR work for him, claiming that he lost his father during the Rawlings coup and all of that. That's why he was compelled to change his name. It's turned out that all of that is false. I was able to obtain WAEC evidence that it's not true he was born Kwabena Edujemfi. Right from primary school, he had been using Victor Kusi Boateng. Indeed, when he registered for the O-levels in 1989, as a student of T.I. Ahmadiyya, he was Victor Kusi Boateng. And at no point was his father killed during the Rawlings coup. That was just another fallacy put out there to court some cheap sympathy. So that mercenary work Paula Domochri tried to do for him fell flat. It was totally, exposed. So now it's confirmed that this gentleman was appointed to the National Cathedral board as Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, with a date of birth 7 September 1971. And indeed, if you go on the National Cathedral website, those are the details still there up to this point. Even though he went to court as Kwabena Edujemfi, it is interesting that, and we did bring an earlier case, which is still pending. He took TV3 to court, I think another defamation suit, and he took TV3 to court as Victor Kusi Boateng. So we also attached that in our evidence.
So he has sued before?
Yes, he sued as Victor Kusi Boateng. Yes, in that same high court.
Even though he claims that the legal person
is
Kwabena Edujemfi.
Exactly. So all of that was attached. And that's why the judge said, look, whose right under Article 33 should I enforce? Is it Victor Kusi Boateng or Kwabena Edujemfi? Because clearly these are distinct personalities, which you have used concurrently. Remember also that he has a totally different date of birth. You see, if you say an alias, many people have aliases, people have nicknames, people have all kinds of, if you like, pet names, probably guy names. There are all kinds of, euphemisms. But it doesn't alter who your mother is. It doesn't change your date of birth. So here we have it. You are publicly celebrating 7 September 1971. Indeed, you did a big bash in 2021. Invited the Vice President, the First Lady, the Foreign Minister, and all of these people. IGP and all of those people.
So the 7th September is Victor Kusi Boateng?
Yes, Victor Kusi Boateng. Now, he's gone to court with these court documents. He's done a statutory declaration claiming that birthday is an error. Can you believe that? That's part of the case. Yes. What he celebrates publicly It's an error. Yeah. So it means his birthdays and all of that too are errors. He makes mistakes in the birthdays that he celebrates. And that the Kwabena Edu Jemfi birthday is the real birthday. And that is the 30th of December, 1969. 2 years apart. So it's not even like it's probably a day or two, 2 years apart. Meanwhile, that is a birthday that you've never celebrated publicly. Indeed, you go on his own church's website, Facebook page, you'll see that what they celebrate is the one that he told the courts is a mistake. So it's incredible. Look, if a movie script is done on this matter, I'm sure it will be a bestseller. It would really, break records. It's unbelievable that a supposed man of God will be engaged in this kind of conduct. But let me state very emphatically that this is not going to be the end of the matter. We expect President Akufo-Addo to fire this appointee of his. He must leave the board of the National Cathedral.
Okay.
He must be fired. We are going to give the president this week to fire him.
To do that.
If he doesn't, there are many more revelations we will be making and more rounds of agitations that we will be carrying out to make sure that he leaves. Because, you see, this is not somebody fit to hold public office, to manage our resources. Absolutely unfit. And once the court has said that the matters border on criminality, I also want to use this opportunity to remind the IGP and the police CID that there is a petition before them. Civil society organizations led by ASEPA have filed a criminal complaint because now the judge has pronounced very emphatically that these matters border on criminality. And you see, this point is very, very important because, you see, I feel so emotional about this matter. Look at what my colleague, Honorable James Jachikwesin, is going through. See what they are putting him through. Try him on a daily basis. He can't even have the peace of mind to represent his people. And what did James Jachikwesin do? More than a year to the election, he had applied to renounce his citizenship. Because of COVID, the Canadians delayed. But even regardless of that delay, the renunciation certificate arrived on the 26th of November, many days before the election of December 7, 2020. He never set out to deceive anybody. And yet, Jachikwesin is facing a criminal trial. The Honorable MP, who has been retained by his people with a much wider margin, the Supreme Court, the President, the Attorney General told clearly that he is the one they love, he is the one they want to represent them. These people are still defying the will of the people, subverting the will of the people, and engage in this sham prosecution. A prosecution where the president goes on stage and says that, why do you want to vote for somebody who is going to jail? Do you want him to represent you from prison? I mean, very prejudicial statements. And let me commend the luminary, Chachuchi Kata, for bringing a special application before the courts on these prejudicial statements of the president. So look at what Honorable James Jachikwesin is going through. That he has made false statutory declarations. He has misled public officers. So he should be jailed. And the president actually had the courage to tell the people of Ascent North, and for that matter, the Ghanaian people, that Jachikwesin is going to jail. What does he know that we don't know? And Jachikwesin is being tried on a daily basis. Between the Honorable Jachikwesin and Victor Kusi Boateng Kwabena Edu Jemfi, whatever the real name is, whatever the real date of birth is, whoever the real mother is, whatever the real thing is, who should be standing trial? Who should be going to court on a daily basis? Who should be prosecuted? And who should be going to jail? So how can the president be protecting this appointee of his? How can the vice president, who chairs the police council and who was at the birthday party of this chap, be clearly instructing the police not to act on various criminal petitions and complaints that have been brought to them, shielding this guy. He's actively involved in his campaign, raising funds for him and all of that. And then this is what they are doing to Honorable Kwesi.
You're suggesting that Rev Victor Kusi Boateng is raising funds for?
Oh yes,
for the vice president.
Yes. He attends their meetings in Kumasi and all of that. I have the evidence. Don't worry. The coming days, I have given them a week. If within a week there is no dismissal or he doesn't resign and criminal prosecutions do not begin, the coming days, the week after this week, will be exceedingly interesting. You know that I'm not one to give up or one to, get tired when you think that you mount roadblocks. You know that. I mean, remember what we did with the presidential chartered travels when he thought that he could keep going at it and, ignoring us, and even try to meet me there, deceiving us that he was flying commercial only to get the chartered jet, 20,000 euros an hour to meet him in transit. We exposed all of that. Eventually, he had to stop. At least the last 5 flights I have tracked, he appears to be born again, which is good. Some have said it's because Ghana is broke, but whichever way,
at least
that is good. And we didn't give up. That's what matters. And I can assure you, we are not going to give up on this matter. Look, you cannot be persecuting the Honorable Jachi Kwesi. And when a high court, I mean, this is not some magistrate court, some small district tribunal. The high court, the human rights court, has pronounced that double identity is proven. These are matters bordering on criminality. I mean, a judge cannot be more emphatic beyond these words. Very, very damning. And you say that is Honorable Kwesi that you are interested in, that you are fixated on. And this Victor Kusi Boateng, you have left him off the hook. They must be joking. They don't know what is coming.
So there's more.
Absolutely more.
In fact, I'm even surprised that you are even saying that he's engaged in soliciting for fund.
Yes.
Being in meetings.
Exactly.
With regards to the vice
president's campaign.
Basically the establishment candidate.
Yes, and has
the backing of the president.
Yes, and he's an active member of that campaign.
Really?
Yes.
After everything that you've put out, the decision of a court, nothing has deterred them.
No. Of course, the only thing they have done is that they asked him to stay away from public view.
Okay.
So he's not seen with the vice president publicly.
Okay.
But in private meetings, in so-called confidential meetings, which we have tracked and have evidence of, he's neck deep, active in all those meetings. And you see, let me be clear. If this country has a minister for justice, not selective justice, and an attorney general, there is absolutely no reason why this Monday morning, they should not be filing charges against Victor Kusi Boateng, Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi. There's absolutely, there can be no justification. The absence of that means that we have a minister for selective justice. We don't have a fair system. That what we actually have now are different rules for different folks, different strokes for different folks. We have a kangaroo system where real perpetrators of crime, proven crime, are left off the hook. And then others are forced to face trumped up charges. I mean, how does that, look, and this is a matter, the Honorable Jachi Kwesi matter. It's a matter that eminent Ghanaians, the Domahene, the chiefs of Ascent North, you have the former Attorney General, the Honorable Ayikwe Otu, leading member of the MPP, all publicly state that the Attorney General must file a nolle prosequi. The President should instruct his Attorney General to stop this sham trial. The President won't listen. The Attorney General won't budge. They say they are pursuing rule of law and that all persons are equal before the law. It doesn't matter what Domahini says or Aikwe Otu says. That is the statement the Attorney General issued. So how on earth does he get his colleague, and don't forget that he serves on the board, the Attorney General serves on the board with Rev Victor Kusi Boateng. So he cannot say he doesn't know about these matters. He doesn't see him at board meetings. The Attorney General cannot say that. This has been a matter of enormous public interest, reported even internationally. You've seen the Al Jazeera reports, the New York Times. The international community is so shocked that any man of God can put up this act and so far be getting away with it. So we are going to demand that this person, this is just the beginning, this Kusi Boateng Edu Jemfi guy must be prosecuted. He must be sacked from the National Cathedral Board of Trustees.
And you say they have this week to
They have this week to do that, because what is coming, they won't like it.
Well, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa in studio with me. I just want to take your thoughts on one small development in terms of the National Cathedral. I know you've also raised questions, but you've not been on the matter of the architect in question. What do you make of the latest development involving him? Because we understand he is having difficulties in the UK, US, and several Western states because some allegations of sexual abuse have been made against him. What do you make of all that?
I have followed those matters keenly, and indeed I've granted interviews to the international press.
Okay.
The Financial Times of London and the New York Times reached out to me, and I did not mince words at all. I said that it was a shame that the Ghanaian government so far appears to be the only government that has not acted on this matter. The British government has acted and have asked David Ajayi to back off the Holocaust Museum project. They've asked him to back off. The mayor of London has asked him to resign from his 42-member Design Advisory Council.
Okay.
In UAE, he has been asked to pack and leave. He was working on the African University in UAE. They've asked him to leave. In Harlem, he has been told to back off the design project he was working over there. So how is it that all of this, even lower entities, lower than governments, lower than the British guy, the UAE government, have acted, asked him to back off? Because remember that he has put out a statement confirming the allegations and saying that he blurred the lines and all of that, but he was going to submit himself to treatment and all of that and was hoping that he would depart from being a predator. How come the Ghanaian government is quiet? And indeed, the only role of the Ghanaian government in this whole scandal is to attempt to leak the names. Remember, the New York Times reported that the ladies who have been acting, they've been protecting their identity for good reason. When they submitted a questionnaire to the Ghanaian government, and to make the point, they because some of these women had worked on the National Cathedral project, the Ghanaian government then leaked the names. So CTFM Online published it. But the lawyers immediately reached out to the Ghanaian government and CTFM Online, and they withdrew the publication and apologized for same. How is it that, see the honorable conduct of governments across the world and other agencies across the world, protecting the image of their project and their country. In the case of the Akufo-Addo government, it was rather to throw the women under the bus. It was rather to undermine what was going on. That's all they have done. And they have not asked David Ajayi to back off the National Cathedral project. Now, think about it. Just reflect on this, Senna. All the other projects that David Ajay is working on and has been asked to back off.
Ghana's gold. Radio gold.
This is the only project that relates to high morality. This is the only project that the president says he had a special conversation with God.
A holy cathedral.
A holy cathedral. A building for God. This is the only project Ajay is doing that is for God directly. And this is rather the one where it is victims rather who they are trying to hound and expose. Meanwhile, they have said nothing about the scandal. They've said nothing about his fate with the project. I mean, incredible. Can you believe that? I mean, the only project which is, one will have thought in this whole affair that the Ghanaian project will be the first. And one wonders, I mean, all these eminent priests at the board of trustees, who I have enormous respect for. The president who says that this one is a special pact with God. He even told God where it to be located. So because of that, he had to demolish the Mali ambassador's residence. He had to demolish the scholarship secretariat. He demolished the passport head office. He demolished the Judicial Training Institute. He demolished judges' bungalows. He demolished Comsys IT firm. He demolished Waterstone Realty apartment complex. Some of them are in court now, demanding compensation. The only project which is being done in the name of the holy name of God, they can't be bothered. I mean, can you imagine? Can you think about it? Then there is another angle which many people have not paid attention to. They haven't averted their mind to. When you read the claims by the woman, they are not only complaining about how he preyed on them sexually, but also how they were maltreated, how they were not paid. Read the claims very well. I mean, and some of them worked on the National Cathedral project, and they were not being paid. I mean, can you believe that? This is a project that the $58.1 million, more than $30 million, and this doesn't happen in construction, it doesn't happen anywhere. More than $30 million went to Ajay. Upfront payments. No recourse to our procurement laws. And these women have seen all of these fantastic sums. And yet, they were not being paid. Rather, they were being harassed, being used for his pleasure, which he has confirmed. He's put out a statement confirming. I mean, can you believe that? So where did all our taxes go? All these taxes that they withdrew. Is it that he was just a conduit that he himself, the money, see top, as our pidgin speakers will say? So he probably didn't get enough to pay his own senior, and these are senior, some of them are top architects, top management, some of them left their firms, left their families in England, elsewhere to join them on this Ghana project. And yet they were not being paid. Some of them owed rent. Some of them even money for food. Remember those two ladies who had confronted him about their rent, money for groceries. They were not being paid. And then he told them to come to his room where he decided to do his things. I mean, I think about the exploitation, the economic exploitation as well. When you have been given more than $30 million. I mean, so, look, as for this National Cathedral, look, I really am glad that the Right Honourable Speaker has approved a motion for a full-scale national inquiry. Okay. I think that an inquiry into this will take many months, but it has to be done. It has to be done. And I am glad that Our caucus is preparing the names, and very soon we shall debate the motion and set up the committee. And I do hope that the committee will be a credible one that will do a thorough job. I don't want this another Katie Hammond kind of committee where he comes there just with a single agenda to scuttle the inquiry and to engage in all kinds of clowning conduct. So really, there's so many angles to this National Cathedral matter. And once again, let me state that if President Akufo-Addo thinks that he hasn't heard, we are going to remind him. Already I put out a statement asking, that was about 3 weeks ago, asking how long it would take for the president to act and to distance Ajayi from this project. Then there are also those who are keeping our monies. You remember I went to the States on a special operation. Carrie Summers, who's keeping our $6 million for no work done. He must refund that money. All those who are running around in America without any mandate from us, collecting monies, they have never filed taxes in our name. Advertising addresses that don't exist. All of those people should know that the day of reckoning is coming. Then ministers of state who have played various roles. Remember that I have a question that is pending in the name of the Honorable Foreign Minister. How is it that Victor Kusi Boateng was appointed to the board of the National Cathedral as Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, and yet when it came to giving him or issuing to him a diplomatic passport to carry out his official assignment, it came in a different name, Kwabena Edujemfi, with a different date of birth? The foreign minister must tell Parliament. And I'm glad that that question has been admitted. She was supposed to have responded to it a couple of weeks back, but she sent a letter to Parliament that she was on leave. I hope that her leave will be ending soon, and probably sometime next week she should come and answer questions. Then there is the ministers for lands and then tourism, who must also answer what is happening to compensation. I'm receiving all kinds of petitions from people whose properties were demolished, that nothing is coming by way of compensation. Remember, the Malian ambassador has only been showed land. He's waiting for his residence to be constructed. And
they haven't started work yet.
No. You know, so all of those matters are outstanding, and there are questions in that regard as to how the government is going to. And when you think about all of this, look, that is why conservative estimates we have done is going to cost the Ghanaian taxpayer over $1 billion. And you see, history teaches us that people don't learn from history. Just next door, Ivory Coast, Houphouët Boigny also had a vision to build a cathedral. Recently, you've seen that video going around. It's been christened number one, the world's most wasteful project. And you always find these projects in Africa. African leaders, the bad ones. Nobody is using that cathedral. It cost them over $300 million at the time. Akufo-Addo's cathedral is going to cost us over $1 billion, because when you add the cost of compensation, when you look at the escalating costs, and do you know that even though work has not been carried out since March of last year, so it's been more than 15 months of no work being done, we are still going to pay. If you look at the contract, it's a terribly negotiated contract. So we have been demanding that the contract should be abrogated, so that we can cut costs. We can, just cut our losses. The president won't listen. He's too proud to eat humble pie. That this his pet project has collapsed, because no matter what he does, the project has collapsed. All he has gifted Ghana and the world is the world's most expensive hole. That's all. That's what he will forever be remembered for. There is no way this project can continue. The project has lost total credibility. Here you have the the chief architect on the project in trouble. Nobody wants him anywhere. Who is going to donate to this project with this year? And you are the only one still keeping him on your project. Everybody become a pariah. Everybody says he should leave. Then you have your board secretary, Kusi Boateng, Edu Jemfi, caught up in this double identity, conflict of interest, scandal. The courts have pronounced. I mean, the entire credibility of this project is in tatters. Perhaps the biggest lesson in all of this is that don't mess around with the name of God. If God hasn't spoken to you, if God hasn't sent you, if God hasn't told you that he's homeless, he doesn't have a place to stay, that it is Ghana and it is you, Akufo-Addo, who should house him, and you decide to misuse his name. You see, when we read the Bible, we don't pay attention. When the Bible says God is not mocked, you see the controversies. I haven't seen any project which has been so scandal-dominated like this project before. Is God not giving us a message? Don't you think, Sana? Don't you think that God is giving us a message? People of Ghana, President of Ghana, don't mess around with my name. Don't. When I haven't spoken to you, I haven't sent you. Have we all forgotten that when David, exuberant David, said he was going to build a temple for God, did God not stop him? That you have shed blood. The people who were killed in the December 2020 elections, have we found the killers? Have the perpetrators been brought to justice? Has the president ever said a word, ever sympathized with their families?
Honorable, we have to take a break. When we'll come back, we'll spend the time left going into the Ministry of Communications $48 million contract with Ascent Digital.
Hello, sweetheart. Me watch the bima wo inti kata weni mami.
Nti wo fisa unko na wonim Aquataps food safe ana. Salad ni nua ba wo di ne de bia no. Aquataps food safe. Ana me do wo ho. Ansa na wedi o.
Omo san so Aquataps water purification tablets. Em omo a omo de ebulu mu nsuo, efom nsuo, suru nsuo, ene nsuo a ehwo nte e de ye wonda ade adwuma. Ah, won san kwada yin so di agro wo fom. No mapomu din so ehia ye pa. Eno nti na mato Aquataps surface disinfectant. Anti hotels, restaurants, hospitals, sachet water manufacturers. Ene fie mu. Aquataps water purification, surface disinfectant. Ene food tablets abama mo say ebeje every waterborne diseases mu. Safe water, safe world. Free one woman true so 050-169-4275 Kumasi and 020-907-7726 Accra and 024-459-3381 Koforidia. Ubenya Aquataps wo pharmacies, drugstores and supermarkets mu. Nanso sa opedudu etua ene ye Kokosak pharmacy. Okaisi drug lane. FDA agi edwade enkratui atum.
Every morning, there are two types of people who wake up in our beautiful country. There is...
Good morning, dear.
What is good about this morning? Oh, what? This bed is too old. Why do I still feel tired after sleeping for 8 hours?
But what is wrong with this bed?
Listen, are you changing the bed or not?
It's okay. I'll change. I'll change.
And then there is...
Good morning, dear.
Good morning, my love.
How was your sleep, love?
Sleep, papa. Ade, papa.
The difference between a happy morning and a battleground morning is a good night's sleep on ash foam Adepa bed. Adepa bed is a mattress, a base, and a headboard all in one, made with superior materials to last a lifetime. Get a massive 10% discount on Adepa bed set. Call 0243-200-729 or 0248-005-300. Adepa bed. Adepa papa. Only from ash foam. Ash foam. Feel it. Know it.
So the essence of my praise is centered on your grace.
My name is Diana Hamilton, VGMA Artist of the Year 2021 and brand ambassador of Awake Purified Drinking Water. I am super excited to partner with Ghana's first charity-driven water to give back to our communities. Awake is a brand that makes a difference. We impact the world around us. That is why for every bottle of Awake water you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. Yes, every time you quench your thirst with a refreshing bottle of Awake, you're helping contribute to save lives. So keep drinking Awake Purified Drinking Water and let's continue making a difference. Awake Water, one for life, supporting the National Cardiothoracic Center. This advert is FDA approved.
one station.
Accra 2022, 23, 24, and more. We don't try, man, by Drema. Back live.
Commercial free.
Us mid-morning show.
Oh, we love what you have in bad Drema. Mid-morning show.
The mid-morning show.
Yes.
90.5.
Good morning, my neighbors. On Children by Drema. Experience quality
Radio station.
Put your hands up.
Rave.
Powerful.
Morning vibes and more. Accra 90.5. We don't try, man, by Drema.
Whoa, we love you.
Your mid-morning show on Radio Go.
We are back like 100 times. 2 times bigger. 90.5. Mid-morning show. Wait, don't tell me by Drema.
Like you've been told, the station is gold, never gets cold. So just be bold, advertise, cause here you sell out.
And of course, if I had been picking calls, your calls would have been brought to you by Wake Purified Drinking Water. But I'll read some of your comments to Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. So probably brought to you by Wake Purified Drinking Water. If you have to drink water today, make sure it's Awake, produced by Casapreco Limited. And don't forget, like we keep reminding you, use Flora tissues. Flora tissues. They sponsor Nancy when she brings you the weather and traffic segment on the Gold Morning Conversation. And of course, this is the best time to buy an Adipa bed. An Adipa bed is a mattress, a base, and a headboard, all in one, made with superior materials to last a lifetime. It's a product of Ash Foam. Ash Foam says you have to always wake up feeling relaxed, because you have to spend a lot of your lifetime sleeping. Sleep is supposed to relax you. You can't wake up feeling tired always and say you are sleeping well. No. That is not good for your health. To get an Adipa bed, it's a mattress, a base, and a headboard, all in one, made with superior materials to last a lifetime. Get one and get a 10% discount. 10%, they'll discount it for you for 10%. Call us from now, 024 32 00 729 or 0248 00 5300. Or if you see any of the showroom of Ash Foam, just walk into it and they'll get you an Adipa bed at 10% discount. Ash Foam, feel it, know it. We still have Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa in studio with us. Honorable.
Hi, Sana.
Today we are keeping him till 10, as promised. And we're moving on to the very next discussion. And it's a matter that he's taking up. And when he takes up a matter, sometimes even when you don't hear him posting or anything, it doesn't mean it is all over. The latest one you've taken up is the $48 million contract that the Ministry of Communication has with Ascent Digital. In fact, it has to do with rural telephony. The Ministry of Communication says they do not have a contract. But what you have done is to put forward enough evidence to show that even the same ministry there are references made to the existence of a contract. Well, first, do you feel like you've done your job already? Because you said we're going to prove the existence of a contract. Do you feel like you've done your job, or you take up the challenge to even produce a contract that they are asking you to do?
Well, thank you very much. And I always like to give a background so that people can fully appreciate the issues. Okay. So for some time now, I've been looking into the activities, the modus operandi of a Nigerian cabal that has hijacked the communications space.
A Nigerian cabal?
A Nigerian cabal. And they are led by a chap called Phillips Olawole Olaya. Phillips Olawole Olaya. Okay. He is the leader of that cabal. He is behind about a $371.5 million projects that have been hijacked. So you remember the controversial Kelny GVG is the same cabal, $178 million. Then there was Smart Infraco, which I exposed, after the finance minister presented the budget, you remember that Parliament and the Speaker insisted that he should come and account for the COVID expenditure.
Okay.
The finance minister conveniently left out the Smart Workplace project.
Okay.
So after that presentation, I exposed the $36 million Smart Infraco, Smart Workplace project.
$36 million spent on it.
Yes, it's the same Nigerian cabal,
Okay.
$36 million. And they even what they said they would do, help the public servants work from home and all of that. It didn't really work. Then there's the Ascent Digital, $48 million, which we'll be discussing in detail. There's the Ascent Airtel Tigo JV, World Bank funded e-transform project, that is $49.5 million.
Okay.
Then there's a new clandestine operation going on at the NCA now, where they are seeking to amend the licensing regime to restrict Ericsson and Huawei and create a new category for this same Nigerian cabal to take over in what experts say will give them about $60 million in profits every year. So when you put all of this together, this cabal has totally elbowed Ghanaian players, and they control $371.5 million. Okay. If you talk to people in the sector, they tell you that Philip Olaya is the one controlling the sector. I mean, what he says is law. And all of these projects that I've been tracking are very shady, dubious, and they don't follow due process at all. It's always, filled with irregularities. And when I go into the $48 million and then how they won another $49.5 million contract from the World Bank, you would understand in detail these infractions that I'm talking about. So you need to understand this context, and it's all about protecting the public purse. It's about fighting corruption. It's about ensuring that Ghanaian actors are able to operate in their own country. I mean, I'm not aware of any Ghanaian company in Nigeria who will be given this unfettered access and will be granted all these loads of contracts at the disadvantage of Nigerian firms. I'm not aware that this will happen in any other country. And this is a government that has been talking about the golden age of business and promoting local content and local businesses and all of that. And yet, when you assess their conduct, this is what they are doing. You need to remember that it's the same modus operandi which I exposed not too long ago during COVID. The Frontiers airport testing, the airport COVID-19 testing. Another Nigerian came in, no licensing from HEFRA, took the airport over, and then they have disappeared with hundreds of millions of dollars. Work that could have been done by Noguchi, by CSIR, by Kolebu, by Komfuanoche. We have local capacity, local medical laboratory capacity. That was not relied upon. We could have used that to even help them generate IGF and build strong institutions. That wasn't done. The same operation, bring in, somebody who is not known, a shadowy character, and just cut a deal. It's always about, fat cats who come in, and then there is a clear disregard for local laws, local content, so that they and their cronies are the ones who benefit. No care for the country. That is what has been going on. So this latest $48 million scandal, I began intercepting documents. Documents which were being used to convince the World Bank to approve a $49.5 million contract. Those documents, which are all in my possession, I have the full complement, and you've noticed my approach is never really to put out everything fully, to bait them with a little, bit by bit, because I know the people I'm dealing with. They always want to deny, and you have a president who is become, known as the clearing agent. So he always wants to clear. So it's always good to, build your case gradually. So the documents I intercepted, which were for the World Bank, to win this $49.5 million contract, were emphatic that they have awarded a $48 million contract to Ascent Digital Solutions Limited. Remember, Ascent is one of the companies owned by this Nigerian cabal that I talk about. And one of the documents is here, dated December 15, 2021. It's on the GIFEC letterhead. It's signed by the administrator. At the time, he was the acting administrator, Prince Ofosu Sefa. And it reads, this is actually a certificate of attestation. It reads, to whom it may concern, proof of existing contract between Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communication, GIFEC, and Ascent Digital Solutions Limited. I, Prince Ofosu Sefa, administrator, confirm that Ascent Digital Solutions is currently executing on behalf of Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, GIFEC, a contract for engineering, design, build, rollout, and managed services operating all aspects of mobile and backhaul network infrastructure related to a flagship rural telephony project involving cell sites in the 2016 communities. Ascent Digital Solutions Limited has been delivering these services to us since February 2020, and the duration of the build and rollout contract is until August 2023, while the managed services contract is renewable after an initial agreement for 2 years. In witness whereof, this certificate is issued to serve and assert that of right. Yours truly, signed Prince Ofosu Sefa. His signature is here. I also have another document from NITA. NITA is an agency, another agency under the Ministry of Communication, which is also a proof of contract document. Then I also have another document which was sent to the World Bank with the head note, evidence of projects of similar nature delivered within the last 5 years. And you see Ascent Digital is here, that they won a $48 million contract from the Ministry of Communications. So, having intercepted these documents, if you have won a contract which is being funded by public money, you must go through the procurement process. Our procurement laws are very clear. So I raised a right to information request on the 3rd of June 2023 to the Public Procurement Authority, asking them if they are aware of this contract and if they granted approval. Because whether it's sole source, whether it's a competitive tender, once it's a public project, you are using public funds, the PPA must be involved. The PPA responded on the 30th of June this year that they have absolutely no record at all of this
contracting question.
This contracting question.
That has been referred to by GIFEC.
That has been referred to. So I then put out the PPA response as my first foray into this matter and asked that why is Osla Owusu approving a $48 million contract without PPA approval? Especially when this is a government which facilitated the removal of Charlotte Osei, the former electoral commissioner, on procurement grounds. This is a government that has people in jail for procurement breaches. And this is a government that is currently harassing, hounding, persecuting people like the Honorable Atu Forson, the Honorable Collins Dowda, the Honorable James Jachikwesen.
Okay.
And yet, they are engaged in much bigger infractions. The minister then claimed that all she knows about the rural telephony project is what was approved by Parliament, and that she dares me to produce the contract. Now, Sana, if you go through this approval by Parliament, I have here the Hansard of 31st March 2020, the approval of the commercial agreement.
Okay.
Parliament approved 2 companies to execute this project,
Okay.
Huawei and CNTIC.
Okay.
Nowhere was Ascent Digital Solutions Limited mentioned.
Okay.
Now, it is important to emphasize that when Parliament has approved a commercial agreement stated which companies must execute, you cannot vary it. If you engage in that, it's illegal. And you can read the quality grain case. You cannot engage in any variation without going back to Parliament to seek approval. So, after that minister's there, I then decided to serialize a few more documents. Would you believe, Sana, that on the 7th of July, GIFEC issued a press statement? And let me read just the first 2 paragraphs. Press statement, 7th July 2023, issued by Corporate Affairs, GIFEC. Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communication, GIFEC, has taken notice of a letter circulating on social media purportedly signed by its administrator about a year and a half ago. The administrator does not recall issuing the said letter, which does not bear requisite characteristics of an official GIFEC letter, with a reference number, and I'm sure they want to say typically, they wrote typically, there's no word like that, contains other features which are lacking on the said letter. Extensive checks at the GIFEC Secretariat also indicates that there is no record of such letter being issued. Can you believe this? So, the GIFEC administrator is now saying that they don't recall. And note that the administrator cannot even be emphatic. Look, you say you have checked your records. So, it can only be 2 things.
Yeah.
You found the letter or you didn't find it. If you didn't find it, it means you didn't sign it. You cannot be engaging in this prevarication, this vacillation, trying to play safe in such a ludicrous manner. I mean, what is the meaning of I do not recall? Meanwhile, all of these letters are in the possession of the World Bank with your signature. So, it's one of 2 things, Sana. Either because they know that they have violated the Constitution, they have amended a parliamentary contract without coming for parliamentary approval, and so they don't want to own up to it. Because of the legal consequences, especially if you look at the quality grain case, what happened in that matter. So let's play safe by saying we don't know about that contract. Or it could be that they had to make up these documents, make up these claims at the World Bank so that Ascent will be given this $49.5 million contract. Because you see, the World Bank criteria, they insisted that you must present a company that has the track record, that has done similar projects before. And that is and so that is why they had to do all of these certificates of attestation confirming that Ascent Digital has been given this contract to win the World Bank. And this is forgery. This is fraud. It's so fraudulent This is misrepresentation. So whichever way it goes, if there is a contract, you are in trouble
with Parliament.
You are in trouble with Parliament. You are in trouble with PPA.
Okay.
You don't have PPA approval.
Okay.
If there is no contract, it means you lied to the World Bank. You want to misrepresent. Ascent didn't have a contract. They haven't executed this project. And yet all of you, NITA, GIFEC, and the Minister of Communication also approved. I have her signatures here and the letters here. And she also approved the joint venture. I have it here with her signature, as you can see. Approved by Mrs. Osla Usuekufu. Approving this joint venture to go into this World Bank bid. I mean, can you believe that? Is this country being run by some mafia, some gang of criminals? What's going on? So, the onus is not on me at all. You are public servants. You have been exposed. You must tell us. And I'm not surprised that since my petition to the World Bank, the minister is nowhere to be found. The minister started with a lot of bravado when I put out my first tweet. Within seconds, oh, I've seen this, I dare him, he should produce the contract. They didn't know what I have. They didn't know that I knew what they had sent to the World Bank, the presentations they had made, the documents, the certificates they have signed. Now we have produced all of it. They are silent. They cannot be silent on this matter. The Minister for Communication must speak. Did she grant a contract violating what Parliament had approved and violating the PPA laws? Or did they make up all these matters fraudulently to win this $49.5 million contract from the World Bank?
Even that suggestion sounds worse for me.
Yes, that is worse.
I'd rather prefer they have a
Yes,
contract.
yeah.
They have to do the PPA.
Exactly. And then so that later you can even appeal to PPA to do, because they did the same thing in Smart Infraco. When I exposed them, later they went to PPA to do ratification. So the PPA even criticized them, but granted them the ratification. But I agree with you. The latter will be worse. If there is no contract, then it's even worse. I see some MPP people, they don't seem to get it. Some zombies going about on social media. Oh, where is the contract? We want the contract. Find the contract, let's talk. You people know what you're talking about. It's not for me to produce. Pray that there is a contract. And urge your minister to produce that contract. If they don't produce the contract, I have all the documents here claiming there is a contract, an attestation, a certificate, which was sent to the World Bank, based upon which they won the contract.
So
November 2022, they've won this contract, $49.5 million.
Oh, so the group that they formed has won the contract?
Yes, they've won the contract. I have all the contracts here. It's here. There are 5 lots. They gave all of them. So I have here, Ministry of Computer Digital, contract document between Ministry of Computer Digitalization and Michelle Airtel Tigo and Ascent Digital Solutions for e-government network infrastructure extension to police stations. I have it here. Then I have a second contract, the same. This is to the northern sector. Then I have another contract here to the infrastructure for the middle sector. Then I have another one here to the southern sector. 5 lots. Then one to Ghana Post offices, extension to Ghana Post services. And when you put all the sums together, it comes to $49.5 million, based on what they had told the World Bank, that this company has the track record. And you see, there is more. You know, Airtel Tigo went into a joint venture with this.
Yeah.
Osla approved the joint venture. I have it. I have her signature here. When Airtel Tigo was taken over by the government of Ghana, the president should have appointed a board by law. The president hasn't done that. Osla has arrogated to herself that role, that she is the board.
That was where I was coming to.
Yes, and under our Companies Act, we can't have a one-member board. And she is the one, and insiders have told me how she told them, if you want to win this contract, you must work with Ascent. And she was the one approving the RFQs. She's the same person who approved the JV. I have her signatures here. Clear conflict of interest and insider dealing. No board, you arrogate to yourself the board. You have appointed a CEO. And you see, whilst all of this was going on, from what insiders have told me, there was a chief finance officer who told them that, look, this is messy. It's shady. I'm afraid for my career, my reputation. Guess what? They removed him from the procurement committee and eventually dismissed him.
Because
with taking effect July 3rd, 2023. They dismissed the chief finance officer because he was raising these issues which have now come to light. So there's a mafia, there's a gang operating in the space. These Nigerians must have their way. Anybody who tries to point to the wrongdoings is kicked out, is dismissed, and unfair dismissal.
No, but we have to bring this to a close, but I want to find out from you've petitioned the World Bank.
Yes, I can confirm to you, Senator, that the World Bank senior vice president, the integrity vice president, who is a senior investigator, Ms. Maria C. Malo, has acknowledged receipt and has indicated that they are now going to launch the investigations into this scandal. So it's a shame, really, that our country will be mad in this really putrefying, really stenchy scandal. And note that the World Bank, under their anti-corruption guidelines, they don't take these matters lightly at all. And I'm sure that they are going to be far-reaching consequences. Having said that, let me also place on record that for those who are thinking that probably this petition may be an unpatriotic act and that Ghana is going to lose money, let me state for the record that this is a loan that we're going to pay. It's not free money. It's a loan that we're going to pay. And it is better for us to take this money out of the claws of the Nigerian cabal, who have such a terrible track record of not getting the job done, of winning contracts under dubious circumstances. And let us rather have this contract in the future re-awarded under transparent and lawful circumstances so that we can have value for money. And when we are paying back this loan, we know that we are paying back for something that has served us well, a job that has been well done. So it's really in the national interest. This is a patriotic act. We must protect scarce resources.
Well, this one is from Bob Compson, says, at the risk of being called a plagiarist, I wish to repeat, if we are just 10 people like Okudzeto Ablakwa in the house, he says we should fill in the blanks. And then there's also this one, Dr. Kwame Ejie, who says I should tell you that he has high regard for you and for your contribution to bringing decency, etiquette, and decorum to civil society. For a man of God to be meandering his way through the hard-won democracy bestowed on us is astonishing. For without Honorable, all these serpentine deceptions will be hidden even from his flock. I'm shocked to the marrow, but you know what they do, Jemfi's flock will still follow him. And did you say the Good Morning Show host was shielding him on there? Well, there are a lot from Honorable I would like to hear. Actually, it's good evening. Good evening. I think that's his program. That was Paul Adumoche. Yes. Who actually, in fact, he put up one of the best defenses I've ever heard. He tried. He tried. I was impressed. I was very, very impressed when I watched the video. But thank you. Thank you for making time to join us this morning.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me too, and keep up the good job for God and country.
Yes. We have to go. Ocham is up next with the mid-morning show. We are way past our time. Don't go anywhere. The king of mid-morning is on.
Kitty Eye Care Day is here again. Hooray! Kitty Eye Care Day is a day where children from 0 to 17 years get to enjoy free eye examinations, free glasses, and free medications. This year, Kitty Eye Care Day is running for 5 days.